We're reading All Things Even Frisky. We're on chapter 5. In the last chapter, we found out that Billy's friend Pete wants to go check out the deserted house and see the ghost. And before that, we found out that Aunt Kate does not like Billy's dog Frisky and wants to get rid of him. Chapter 5, Good for Something. What's going to happen? When Billy burst into the kitchen the next day after school, his heart almost stood still. Where was Frisky? Aunt Kate was busy at the sink. She didn't turn around when Billy came in. Something was wrong. "Hi, Aunt Kate," he said. Where's Frisky?" Aunt Kate's back looked stiff. "He's in the basement being punished," she answered crisply. Billy heaved a sigh of relief. At least she hadn't given him away. "Punished?" he questioned. His aunt turned around and faced him. "That pup of yours is a terrible nuisance. As soon as I lay down on the Davenport to take a nap, he started barking. Every noise he heard, he'd jump up and growl. I couldn't get a minute's rest." "That's because he's taking care of you, Aunt Kate," interrupted Billy eagerly. "He's a watchdog and he is a nuisance, puddles, and rascal," snapped Aunt Kate. "And I could think of a lot of other suitable names for him. He's driving me frantic." Billy turned away to hide the tears that rushed to his eyes, but not before Aunt Kate noticed. "Here," she said, "have a cup of cookies. They're oatmeal and should be good for you. And," she added grudgingly, "I suppose you can let the pup up now. I hope he's learned something by this time." Billy ate the cookies on the back steps while Frisky frolicked around his feet, grateful for the small pieces Billy held out to him. Suddenly, Billy knew he must talk to Uncle John. Wiping the crumbs off his mouth with the back of his hand, he ran across the yard to his friend's house. Frisky tagged along at his heels. Uncle John listened patiently while Billy told him of Frisky's latest antics. "I know he was just trying to protect Aunt Kate, Uncle John," he said, "but she thinks he's a nuisance. I prayed and prayed that God would make her like Frisky. Why doesn't God answer my prayer?" The old man's eyes twinkled. "He will, Bill. He will. You just wait. God is never in a hurry, but he's never too late. Often he answers our prayers much differently from what we expect, but his ways are always best in the long run. There's a verse in the Bible about this I like very much. All things work together for good to them that love God. That's Romans 8:28, if you want to look it up." Billy thought about Uncle John's words as he dressed for bed that night. Dropping to his knees beside the bed, he prayed as usual, then added, "And please, Jesus, don't forget about Frisky and Aunt Kate. Uncle John said you were never too late." Then he jumped into bed and was soon fast asleep. At first, Billy heard the barking only in his dreams. Then suddenly he was awake. He jumped out of bed and raced for the basement. He was afraid this would decide Frisky's fate for sure. The pup hadn't barked at night for a long time. What would Aunt Kate say? Billy took the basement steps 2 at a time. He had to stop Frisky before he woke up Aunt Kate with his barking. But it was too late already. He could hear her coming down the hall. "Frisky," pleaded Billy as he reached for the jumping pup, "stop that barking." But Frisky wouldn't stop. Billy could hear Aunt Kate coming down the basement stairs. His heart sank. Suddenly, he saw what was making Frisky bark. Aunt Kate saw it at the same time. "A mouse!" she shrieked. Sure enough, Frisky had cornered a small mouse and was jumping excitedly around the scared little creature. Aunt Kate fled to the safety of the first floor, shutting the door firmly behind her. Billy couldn't understand either Aunt Kate or Frisky. What was so bad about a little mouse anyway? Suddenly, the mouse darted past Frisky and disappeared. Billy grabbed his barking dog and ran up to the kitchen. He found a white-faced Aunt Kate pacing the floor. "Oh, that horrid mouse!" she cried. "I can't stand mice. What if he comes into my bedroom while I'm sleeping?" She shuddered and looked helplessly at Billy. Billy felt sorry for Aunt Kate. Afraid of a tiny little mouse? "I know where there's a trap, Aunt Kate," he said. "If you'll give me some cheese, I'll set the trap down in the basement and we'll catch the mouse." Aunt Kate hastily found some cheese in the refrigerator and gave a piece to Billy. As Billy put Frisky down and started for the basement to set the mousetrap, he heard Aunt Kate say, "Imagine sleeping in the same house with a mouse. Frisky, I'm glad you discovered him. Guess you're good for something after all." Billy turned around and looked. He couldn't believe his eyes. Aunt Kate was actually petting Frisky and letting him lick her hand. Yay! Chapter 6, New Tricks. Pete caught up with Billy after school on Thursday. "Hey, Billy," he said, "if you'll do me a favor, I'll do you one." "You mean the Saturday deal?" asked Billy, hoping Pete was going to back out of going to the deserted house. Pete looked puzzled for a moment, then laughed. "Oh, that! Almost forgot about it." Billy eyed him enviously. How could he forget about something so scary? Pete kicked a pebble down the sidewalk. "I can't go this Saturday because I have to help my dad. But another time," his voice trailed off. "Yeah," said Billy quickly. "Some other time." He was so relieved that their visit to the deserted house was postponed, he felt like shouting, "Hooray!" But of course that wouldn't have sounded very brave. Pete had his mind on something other than ghosts today. "It's my book report," he said miserably. "Miss Wilson says I have to have it finished by tomorrow, and I haven't even read the book yet." Billy looked at the book Pete was carrying. Farmer Boy. "Oh, I've read that," he said quickly. "It's good." "Not to me," said Pete. "I don't like to read. The only thing I like in school is arithmetic. If you write my report, I'll do your arithmetic." Billy thought for a moment. It wouldn't take him long to write a report on Farmer Boy, not as long as doing his arithmetic would take. He'd have more time to play with Frisky. "Okay," he said, "but we'll have to go to school early tomorrow so we can copy each other's papers. Miss Wilson knows our handwriting." "I'll come at 8:15, said Pete as he turned down a street. "See you." Billy worked on the book report as soon as he got home. "Another book report so soon?" asked Aunt Kate pleasantly as she looked over his shoulder. "You do nice work, Billy." Billy wondered what Aunt Kate would say if she knew he was writing the report for Pete, and that he was going to copy Pete's arithmetic paper in return. She doesn't need to know, he told himself. Nobody has to know. But Billy had the uneasy feeling that somebody did know. Because he finished his homework so promptly, Aunt Kate let Billy go over to see Uncle John after supper. Billy wanted to show him some new tricks he taught Frisky. "Uncle John," he said as he burst into the older man's kitchen, "Frisky can roll over now and sit up when I tell him to. Look!" Uncle John watched while Billy went through his tricks with Frisky. "Good dog," he said, patting Frisky's head. "You deserve a cookie. Bring one from the cookie jar, Billy, and have a couple yourself." Billy ran for the cookies. Frisky jumped high and danced on his hind legs for his. "Look!" cried Billy. "He can dance, too. Isn't he smart, Uncle John?" Uncle John chuckled. "You bet he is. He's the smartest dog in this room." "He sure is," exclaimed Billy. Then he grinned sheepishly. "The only dog in this room," he added as Uncle John laughed. "I believe he is learning to obey you, Billy. And that's an important thing for dogs to learn. Boys, too, by the way." "I try to be obedient," began Billy, frowning a little. "Good," said Uncle John, laying his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Jesus is in your life now, you know, to help you be obedient and do what is right." Suddenly, the book report and arithmetic paper flashed into Billy's mind. Should he tell Uncle John what he and Pete were doing for each other? But what if Uncle John told him he shouldn't do it? If he backed out now, Pete would be furious. "I've got to go home, Uncle John," Billy said suddenly, picking up Frisky. "Good night." Billy felt miserable as he ran across the yard to his own house. We'll stop there. What's going to happen? Can't win when cheat.